We're into day 6, rolling into day 7 of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And the thing that's been somewhat mystifying is why isn't Russia bringing its entire air force to bear? The predictions beforehand were that there were at least over 100 Russian planes ready to attack the Ukrainian air force. We believe that the Ukrainian air force, in terms of frontline attack jets, was something like 75 planes. You would have thought logically they would have swept the Ukrainian air force out of the air. Certainly they've been launching attacks on Ukrainian air bases with cruise missiles, and I suspect that many of those air bases are now cratered and smashed to pieces. And you've got to remember that these fighter jets are extremely high maintenance. It's just like, civil aviation liners, that little things go wrong all the time, and you need to constantly check them over every time they land. It's not like back in World War One where you just patch up a few holes in it with a bit of cloth, bit of Dobe's cloth, and so that could explain a little bit why we're not seeing a lot of air action on the part of the Ukrainians. I suspect that they're running out of air bases. But on the part of the Russians, it's really confusing, because apparently the airspace over Ukraine is still being contested. Obviously, there's the myth of the ghost of Kiev, a dude who shot down 5 Russian fighters in one sortie or in one day. Who knows if that's true? Maybe. Possible. I suspect that even though, to be honest, the Ukrainian jets are not as good as the ones that we have or the Americans have or most of NATO have, I suspect they're equipped with extremely modern air-to-air weapons that are better than what the Russians have. Modern Sidewinders are extremely good. So it's unclear if that even happened. But it does seem that the airspace is contested. In terms of low-level ground attack, we know that the British and the Americans too sent the Ukrainians an awful lot of Stinger missiles and the like. And so if you come down too low, you're going to get shot down because, one dude just points the thing, waits for it to beep, fire. It's not difficult to shoot down a very expensive fighter plane with a Stinger missile. So that would explain perhaps the casualties they've taken in terms of ground attack. But in terms of high-level fighter interception and so on, it is a bit of a mystery why the Russians haven't completely dominated the skies. Also, though, it would appear that this, supposed armoured column, assuming the satellite imagery is correct, this large armoured column, 40 miles long or so, moving towards Kiev a few miles, something like 20 or 30 miles from Kiev, it's an absolute sitting duck for aerial attack. Why doesn't it come under aerial attack if it's true that the sky is contested and you can still fly? We know that Ukraine bought quite a few Turkish drones, which have the capability of sending, something like, Hellfire missiles or Brimstone missiles or whatever their version is, down to the ground. And they can take out things on the ground very easily with these drones. It doesn't appear to have come under attack, so that would indicate that either not able to fly because their runways are cratered and their repair facilities are destroyed, or that the Russian Air Force is indeed in command of the air. But we're not seeing, I've been checking a load of webcams all over Ukraine. We're doing it all day, really. I've not seen any evidence of, air battles or airplanes flying by or anything. It doesn't appear that there's massive aerial assault going on. But then again, there could be a high level and you just don't hear it really. It's like our troops over Dunkirk. They all complained, where's the RAF? Well, the RAF had intercepted them miles away. That was why we took so few casualties on the beaches. But the troops still thought, oh, where the hell's the RAF? And so, it seems to be a bit of a debate at the moment in the news, what's going on in terms of the air situation. One explanation I had actually just recently heard from Capitol Hill, from a general there, was that the weather's just been too bad. So neither side is able to really fly much over the last few days. I don't really know about that. Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I'm not convinced on that one. But I think the real reason is that probably for the most part, the Ukraine Air Force can't fly because, as I said, their bases have clearly been under cruise missile attack and even airborne assault. And in terms of ground attack, I just think they have so many surface to air missiles that we've supplied that it's just too dangerous for all of their ground attack aircraft to go in. That's my suspicion, but we'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly an interesting situation. It's a bit of a mystery on what is happening in the air over Ukraine. And just to quickly comment on it, that I was listening to the German news, Deutsche Welle, a little earlier, and apparently one of the Polish MPs has said, because what the EU is doing, that they've obviously set aside 500 million to buy various arms and equipment. Now, that'll buy a lot of ammunition, but not very many fighter jets. They're incredibly expensive. Probably buy you 2 or 3. But either way, they've claimed that they are moving in fighter jets. But it has to be ones that the Ukrainian air pilots can actually fly. Now, bearing in mind they're flying MiGs, I don't think we make very many MiGs in Europe, so I'm a little confused on that one. But the Polish MP did say we would allow Ukrainian pilots to fly these jets from Polish airfields against Russia, or to defend Ukraine's airspace. That, if it does happen, will be a massive escalation because obviously Poland is a NATO country, an EU country, not in the euro. I think it's still the zloty. But if that was to take place, I mean, what if Russia sends a cruise missile into whatever base the Ukrainians are flying from? Then suddenly you have a war with Russia. That's a massive escalation. I can't imagine that'll happen. But that's certainly bellicose talk from whichever Polish MP said that. But what he did say is that they've literally got some fighter jets that they're currently shipping across Poland to give to Ukraine, and they'll exchange them in Poland. So at the very least, they're going to fly them off from a Polish airfield into a Ukrainian airfield. Will they be armed and ready to fight when they go up? I'd advise them to be armed, and otherwise you might well get shot down on the way. And but again, that's an escalation, isn't it? Because even if you're transiting them to a Ukrainian airfield, well, you've flown them from Poland, so it's a interesting exercise of brinksmanship. And the problem is you have someone that's probably suffering with dementia in the form of Joe Biden. You've got a classicist scholar in the form of Boris Johnson, who doesn't know his arse from his elbow, and then you've got Putin, who even when he was at KGB school, he got kicked out because he was just such a loose cannon. Basically, he didn't give a damn about risk to himself or to the service, apparently. So they kind of got rid of him. So it's a mad situation, and we just wait. We wait and watch, and we watch and wait, and we pray for pray for the people over there, the innocent people who are involved in this, because it must be horrible. Could you imagine being stuck in one of those subway stations that are completely full of people? I've heard loads of reports of people literally they're not going down there because they're afraid of getting crushed. So they're stuck, in basements of houses, no toilets, no drinking water. Apparently, you can't really drink the water from the taps in Ukraine. It's a horrible situation, isn't it? I was talking to a friend of mine from Sri Lanka recently who was in the Tamil region of Sri Lanka, and he just, nearly burst into tears when I spoke to him, and he was like, it reminds me of what happened here, because obviously he's very much on the side of the Tamil Tigers, because in his mind the Sri Lankan government kind of went in there and did the same thing, and I don't know the rights or wrongs of that because I have no idea about the conflict in Sri Lanka, but it was just, to him, it felt the same, that he had to go through all of that, hence why he's in England rather than at home. That's just a digression, but yeah, it must be pretty horrendous. But and let's hope that all of the beautiful architecture, of Ukraine isn't completely trashed. I mean, it's a beautiful country, and it's pretty horrendous what's happening. But yeah, quick video.